That was a delay. Welcome to our Thursday book launch. My name is Malika Albrecht, and I am the founding editor of Redheaded Stepchild. And tonight we're going to have such a good night. We've got a lot of great readers for open mic, and our featured poet, who I am so excited to celebrate, is Kim Ports Parsons. If you don't already have a copy, that's the gorgeous cover. Yeah. The May Apple Forest is her debut book, and I feel really lucky that I got to see a copy of this before it was published. And when I read it, I think I wrote you like a day later and just said, this is gorgeous, because this is a gorgeous collection. And I was so excited to just read poem after poem that I just went, oh, that is just breathtaking and heart-opening. It's a gorgeous book. Kim Ports Parsons grew up in the countryside near Baltimore and earned degrees from Goucher College, University of Maryland, and University of Nebraska-Lincoln. She taught students of all ages for decades and worked in public and school libraries. Her poems have been published in many journals and anthologies. She volunteers weekly for Cultivating Voices Live Poetry, an international, intersectional, intergenerational poetry Community. I think we have a lot of members today that go to that regularly. She lives next to Shenandoah National Park, gardens, walks, and writes. Mayapple is the debut collection. I have a link into the chat section where you can buy it from Terrapin Books if you don't already have a copy. Also, kimportsparsons.com is her website for more information. I am not going to talk anymore. I want to just turn it over to you. I'm so excited. And I do have to tell you, I'm really kind of secretly hoping A Blessing is one of the poems she made.
Sure.
Yes.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like I'm going to yell it out, you know.
Well, I'm glad to know that. I'm glad to know that. I will add that to add that to what I read.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming out. It's just wonderful to see your faces, and I'm looking forward to hearing your poetry at the open mic. And thank you so much, Malika, for the invitation for tonight and for your encouragement and support along the way. It really has meant the world to me, and I'm so grateful. I want to shout out to the publisher, Diane Lockwood and Terrapin Books, and thank them for believing in my work, and also the painter, Frances Coates, who allowed us to take an excerpt from her amazing painting called Mayapples. There's a little story about this painting that I think I'll just share right off the bat, which is the title poem, The Mayapple Forest, I worked on for a number of years. It was a difficult one for me. It took me a long time to figure out what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it. And I was visualizing in my mind Mayapples in bloom. They're a plant that grow close to the ground in the deciduous woods in North America. They emerge in spring, almost, suddenly, I would say, like little umbrellas. They open up by April. By May, they have small individual blooms on the female plants. And by midsummer, those blooms become individual fruits. The whole plant is poisonous except for the perfectly ripe juice of the fruit, which is quite delicious, but you have to handle this with care because it's otherwise poisonous through the whole plant. The other thing that's fascinating about the plant is that it all grows from one root in a colony. And after it's borne its fruit, it slowly fades back into the ground and disappears, and you don't see it again until it suddenly emerges from the ground in the spring. These grow in the woods near my house, and I see them on hikes in the Shenandoah. And there was something compelling about them. I'd want to get down and kind of look at the woods from the perspective of this colony of plants close to the ground. And that image just kept going through my mind. And this fascination with the natural world and the interconnection of all things and the cycle of life, this runs through a lot of the poetry. So I'll read the title poem. Oh, but I'll say this one other thing. So I walked into a gallery one day near my home, and there was this painting. The artist had painted what I had been imagining for like 2 years. And I ended up doing what for me was a giant splurge in buying the painting and meeting the artist, and she agreed to let me, once this became a book, she agreed to let me use it for the cover. So it was like this parallel artistic thing that was happening with a woman that just like lives a few miles away from me, who I didn't know. So that's kind of neat. I'm going to begin with a poem that it's called Time to Carry. It's the second poem in the book, and it's, about how I got through some of the worst of the pandemic time in isolation. Time to carry. I can't recall the date, can only guess the hour, but it's time to get up and walk the dog and put the seed out for the birds whose feathers know it's time to fade and hide among the undressing hedges. I'm not sure whether it's Monday or Tuesday or Sunday, but it's cool this morning. Time to move sweaters up on the shelves, time to find the other glove before we sink our feet into the frosty dew and sniff the sunrise. Later each morning, more orange, lower on the horizon as day ascends. It's time to walk, then to sip coffee, then read the news, then despair again of emperors and their antics. Push through and begin the morning's work, clearing dead vines, deadheading the faded metaphors. The gifts of these months of plague and separation are silence and space and time. Not calendars, not plots on a line, but to be alive, to breathe, to wake, to hear the owls call the coyotes as they hunt and cry, to look up and see the heron pass, to look down and feel the cat brush my leg. I imagine children climbing trees. I mow the grass when it grows long. Then it's time to scrub the floor and bended knees, time to cook the sauce, the fruit is ripe. Now it's time to wake, now time to sleep. Take this pail of water to the field, the wooden handle cutting deep, the millions more sickening, millions dead, number on the grinding wheel. I do not know the time. This is the plague's gift, to live, to breathe, to carry this grief, the slowing of each step. So,
Wow.
grief is a thread that runs through the book, and also that need to just get up and keep going and work through it. And later I'll also share, the other side of the same coin, right, which is joy, right? Those two things just walk hand in hand all the time. So there's a poem I wrote about my mother's grief for my father. He died very suddenly. He died very suddenly at the age of 76. This is called Upstream. My father died suddenly. My mother left to mourn. 300 miles from home, he turned down his bed. Friends came for coffee, found him on the floor. They let my uncle know, then we knocked on her door. I hope his mind was on the river where he fished the evening hatch. Steps from the old trailer under tall pitch pines. The water so clear there, he could count the stones. The bourbon brown and sweet there after casting in the dusk. I hope the river's murmur was louder than the pounding. A quick death's a blessing for the one who dies. He washed up from supper, then pulled back the covers, then a sharp pain, a dizzy moment, a door closing, and lights out. But a curse for the one who waits for the long box and lays it in the ground, who opens the window of each empty day and sets a table for one each night, who chews mouthfuls of dust and listens on repeat to her own lungs dirge. Joy is short. The O a fish makes as it leaps for the fly. The last minute of the 56.5 years of loving a living man. But grief is long, a strong current from which you never rise, but needs must swim against for the rest of your days. That's Upstream, a poem reflecting on the harshness of losing a lifelong partner, as my mother did. And so I'll shift now and say, I think so many things in life hurt us, things we go through, our own mental state, heartache, loss, difficulties, tensions, troubles. And one thing, my mother taught me was get up and get going and carry on. And so this next poem is just sort of a short reflection on that. It's called Morning Practice. As the cat's bones stretch past all possibility, as the mockingbird sings a new lexicon, as the day's mouth opens wide, unlock the body, turn instinctual into the curve of beloved, rise and open the door, place a shallow dish of water for the summer birds, choose a peach from the bowl, cool, smooth stone on a warm palm, place a slice on the tongue, sunlight in the mouth. No need to bury that dream. Spade a small hole in the compost pile and drop it in. Stir. Garden imagery appears in a lot of my work. There's poems in the kitchen, there's poems in the garden, there's poems in the woods. And there's other poems too, but those are really common settings for me. And in that idea of moving on, let me turn to the poem A Blessing for Malika. A Blessing is a poem in which the speaker might be forgiving themselves for a long held trouble, a long gnarly problem, might be forgiving someone who had caused hurt. But it's about, letting go and forgiving which is a big part of carrying on, right? It's something we have to do for ourselves more than anything else to be free. And one of the things in this poem is it refers to the moonflower. And if you're familiar with moonflowers, they're like the opposite of morning glories. They're in that same family of vine, and they open at the setting of the sun at dusk, very slowly. Sometimes you can actually watch them unfurl, and they really glow, this white moonlight glow. So here we go, a blessing. You sit on your front porch some evening, alone, or holding the hand of someone you love, or not holding it, nor your breath, nor your stiff neck of work. Your mind slowly opens with the drifting down of dusk. Little twitches of the calendar pass through your arms and legs. Let them. They can't dance you back into dayliness. Even the flashes of pain once inflicted, you brush off as you do the mosquitoes. You steal small portions of your blood. Don't give them more. And while you wander over yourself and settle into the shadows, the moonflower on the vine, twining up the porch rail, slowly opens. So slowly, you don't turn your head. You do not drag the heavy tail of him behind you anymore. You have lifted him in your arms and turned him over and known his human shape once again. When you set him down, you walked away. Turn now. Feel some presence at your back. See the full circle of the blossom. And though momentary, how it glows, how its purity washes over you, its scent a sacred open space. And that's a blessing. I hope you enjoyed that, Malika. You think I have time for maybe 2 more?
Yes, please.
Yes, okay.
Yes, please. Thank
Well,
you
I'm
so
going
much.
to read The Mayapple Forest, the title poem, and I'll say that it's a little long. It's a strange poem. It's a little dreamy. It comes out of my own imaginings about the daughter I was unable to have. So come on in with me to the Mayapple Forest. We'll see where it takes you. The Mayapple Forest. She does not walk in bare feet on damp leaves, light on spongy ground. She does not cup a pale green bud, still and swelling, in her curious palm. She comes and goes, looks at me with large brown eyes she doesn't have, eyes like her father's. When she does not smile, her dimples show, like mine. My daughter, Lucy Rose, the one I do not have. Lucinda for my great-great-grandmother, Rose for old-fashioned rambling ones, yellow as rich cream, simply petaled and fragrant. We don't hold hands or turn around the fairy ring of mushrooms rising in the orchard. She does not remind me to sit by the stream, to let my mind move with the watery light. The Mayapples rise as the wheel turns, lifting their shining shoulders. One morning not there, the next dozens of glistening sheaths pushing up from the womb of the forest floor. Leaves closed as the stem lengthens, all sprung from one root. Connected, slowly unfolding, opening bright umbrella selves, almost in unison, waxy and wrinkled, discovering their shape and flexing out fully, tip to tip, a green quilt of 6 pointed stars at my feet. Lucy Rose doesn't know why she's drawn here when she doesn't come walking. She does not ask me to lie down here on the reassuring earth, though I do as she says. Be very still. Be an acorn falling. Here, underneath. Look up. Breathe in the singular flowers nodding from the axil of 2 leaves on the female stems. Pale chiffon faces across the colony, turned each to each. 1 or 2 facing slightly away, lost in thought, circle of children gathering to play under a bright moon. Pale stones set just so in a shaded garden. I do not see her moving beneath this tender sky, inches above the litter fall. I do not see her as she touches a stalk here or there, or as she reaches to finger the first pale fruit. She is not listening to the oak and its saplings. She does not call me to join her. She leaves no shadow. She doesn't turn back. Farther and farther into the dappled tangle until she might be just a leaf rustling under the mayapple forest. The world accepts its own dying, recreates itself, cell by cell. So that is the mayapple forest. And in this painting, which maybe, I didn't do it tonight, but I think I could show you the entire painting later on during the open mic. I'll put it up behind me, and you can, when you see it in person, there's this extraordinary feeling that you could go deeper and deeper and deeper into the painting. And that was what I was trying to make happen in the poem, that you were going deeper and deeper into this imagined world of this daughter I long to know and will never know. And so anyway, that's the mayapple forest. Let me shift to 2 lighter poems. This next one, and then I'll do one more after that, is called Postcard. And it's kind of about, you know, how we'll throw old photos or postcards or cards or notes or letters or tickets, you know, into a drawer or into a box of keepsakes. And for whatever reason, one day we might open that up and shuffle through them, and like whole waves of your life wash over you, right? Just from this little touchstone. So that's kind of what this poem is about, Postcard. And it references my hometown of Baltimore and diners and all kinds of things. A surprise. from somewhere you've never been, or maybe remember as a spot where you stood looking at the scenery. Or say it's from a friend in New York, a diner in her working class neighborhood, aluminum sided like a giant sardine can, pink vinyl and chrome edged, Formica tables speckled gray and white. And suddenly you're 16 again, tearing off to the double T, pretending to be a grown-up, smoking and drinking coffee with your best friend in a booth by a window. You order a double T burger and fries, chocolate cream pie, and the waitress who's worked there 20 years puts her pencil behind her ear and says, "Is that all, hon?" Like any good Baltimore waitress should. You laugh at the fat trucker at the counter, how his butt is sticking out over his jeans, but you're really staring out the window at the rainy traffic on Route 40, thinking about the boy who always drives you home. You reel and giggle when he does donuts in the parking lot, and you yell for him to stop, though you wish you'd never leave that car. His face still floats up sometimes in a dream, a postcard from the past. You bike along his street and meet once again after years, and he asks you in. You discover it's not the same house, but his smell is still part sweat, part cotton, part fresh cut wood. You can't linger there in that time when who you are now doesn't count. You're drawn up out of the story and back onto the straight line of your life. You feel yourself rolling through the routine, energy waxing and waning each day at the same time. And soon it is next year, and then the year after. Stacked away in a box, letters and postcards. You shuffle them, hoping to draw the card that can bring you back to the you who lies smoldering under the surface, the one who keeps secret desires tucked away in her pockets. What happens when one slips out? Does it snake its way up your spine? Does it fill your head once more, like the scent of an old lover? You want to get away, to go far enough away that a strange room feels familiar, safe, a place to sleep, to think. And before you come home, you'll write a postcard, a small surprise for a friend who finds it in the mail, looks at the front, reads the message and smiles. The mornings are peaceful. There's sun on the mountain and fog down below. That's postcard. Well, let's end on some unadulterated joy, okay? This is a poem I wrote for my husband, Doug, as a gift. It's a poem about that just longing to experience the kind of joy that would just sweep up in childhood and carry you along, and you'd be sort of outside of time and space, right? At least for that moment. And boy, how we all need to have those moments if we can. Nice work if we can get them, right? Mm. So this is for Doug, my husband. I want to ride through this life. I want to ride through this life like a child standing on the hump of an old sedan, leaning over the front bench seat, not knowing what's beyond, but full of eager anticipation. Gleaming windshield of possibility, sun breaking through greening trees. You drive, beloved. I know you'll go gently, assuring it's not too far or too long or too hard, that wonderful things are waiting. Along the way, songs we know and sing along, and new songs, and special things to eat and drink, and games with words, and laughter, and space for silence too, for sleeping, and even dreams. You'll go just fast enough on a country lane, mountains in the blue distance, that if I jump as we climb a cresting hill, and if I catch the moment just right, my jump will become weightlessness, a suspension, a floating in joy, a kind of flying, a hawk testing its wings on its first miraculous glide. And that's, I want to ride through this life for my husband, Doug. And thank you all for coming out and listening to my poems. Can't wait to hear yours.
Thank you so much, Kim. Such a perfect poem to end on, too. Yeah. Oh, Kara just wrote, I'm along for any ride that these poems are going to take me on. Right? Oh, there's so many comments in there in the chat section, Kim. I couldn't even begin to.
Oh, thank you all. I'll enjoy looking at them later on.
Yeah, you will. You really will.
Thank you.
If y'all want to unmute, we can take a moment just to clap and really show our appreciation for Kim reading these poems tonight. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Bravo.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
Bravo.
Thank you.
So good.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah, Christy, I saw you wrote in there, I have to have this book.
yeah.
You do.
Well, I don't share this widely because it would overwhelm me. I know it would overwhelm me, but in a small intimate group like this, I will put into the chat to Malika maybe.
Okay.
I don't know how to do this in a way because I don't want to send this out to the whole world. That
Yeah, the chat section does not
that
stay
if-
with the video, just to let you
Okay.
know.
So as later on during the open mic, I'll say, if you'd like to contact me, I can give you a discounted version of the book, send it to you in the mail, you can help pay for the postage and I'll sign it and tuck a little
Yes.
postcard in there. But I can't do it for 100 million people. I just can't.
Yeah.
I'm like, let the bookstore handle that.
Right. Well, I'm glad that people will have that option because the postcard and the bookmark, that was really special. When I opened up, I was like, this is just awesome.
I just made a few of those to share in that
They're
way.
fabulous. Do people have questions for Kim about her process, about this book? I love the stories that you told. I love the story about the painting for the cover.
Oh, I'll bring that up behind me now. I hope I wasn't babbling.
No, I love those details. And no, you kept it very succinct. And I think several people put the backstory is so cool. Does anybody have any question? I did not see any in the chat section. Sometimes
No,
I miss something.
That
Oh,
is,
holy smokes.
if you spotlight that, you'll be able to see it larger, everyone.
Yeah, let me
Okay.
do that. Thank you, Kim. Oh, well. Wow.
It's gorgeous.
Yes, it is.
It's really gorgeous.
It really is. And I think your description of walking in underneath and how you can go deeper.
Yeah, the crazy thing about this is that, it's not an acrostic poem. I mean, I found this painting when I was like, maybe 1 or 2 more sessions away from doing my final revisions.
Yeah. See, which is so fabulous. No, it was meant to be.
It's like, wow, soul sister,
Yeah.
this artist.
Well, the irony is too, I think I told you this a couple of weeks before I got your book. I was walking in the woods and found a couple of mayapple flower
The
umbrellas.
plants, yeah. Yeah,
And I was like, I've been watching them and I've been obsessed with it.
yeah. They're really
And then when I read your book,
beautiful.
I was like, oh my heavens, but I did not know it's a single root. So
Yeah, that whole metaphor, that this is
yes.
all emerging from one root, in this cycle of life and death. It's really, plants are amazing and endlessly inspiring to me.
Well, and I think your love and descriptive attention is kind of a meditative way of expressing love for the natural world is so much a part of this book. And the painting is actually with Kim. She bought the painting.
It
which
is on my
amazing.
wall, right over my writing desk.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the artist and I will do a reading. I'm kind of continuing in pandemic mode. I live in the middle of nowhere and have no desire to really go be in the middle of the city. And so I really have not, events have been like this, virtual. And I think by May, the gallery which is 12 miles from my house, where her paintings are shown, and it's the only gallery that shows her paintings. I think we're going to do a little show, a little reading, highlighting her work, and it's really interesting. Clearly, we're kindred spirits. There are other paintings that relate to other poems of mine. It's just kind of fascinating. So I'm even hoping it'll probably be in May, and I'm hoping that maybe we can even collaborate on a little broadside or something with, a small
I love that. Yeah.
image of hers and a poem that relates to it. Yeah, pretty neat when you make those artistic connections across mediums, right?
I think that's fascinating. Almost like y'all have been in the dream space collaborating already. And now brought together to collaborate in real life. That's wonderful. Any questions? Or I think everybody's just like, it was amazing. Yeah. Okay, I'm reading that right.
In advance for being here, and I look forward to reading your thoughts, and I really appreciate it, and I can't wait to hear your poems.
Thank you, Kim. That is fabulous. So that's what we'll do. I have Christy, you are first on my list, and I will spotlight you. There we go.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I don't usually like to read really fresh ink, but this is new. So here we go. McConaughey tells me how to stop biting my nails. Take your fingers out of your mouth. Go. Look for green lights. Drive to a spot. Hide in its trees. Dig up a journal. Write your boundaries. Ask me to teach you how to play bongos. Draw a line in the music. Imprint your hand in the wet dug earth. Watch your spirit grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. I love that. It's got that new poem smell. Matthew McConaughey.
Yes.
Fabulous. I love it. Josephine, I'm coming your way. Give me there we go.
Thank you so much. Thanks for including me this evening. I'm coming from Canada, just north of Montana. So it's the traditional and ancestral lands of a number of different Indigenous peoples, including the Piikani, Siksika, Kainai, Nakota, and Tsuut'ina. And I'd like to acknowledge them and thank them for bringing culture, language, poetry to the land. And I was going back and forth as to which poem I wanted to share tonight, but when you shared the title piece and you mentioned that your daughter's name was Lily Rose, that swayed the scales for me. So this one's dedicated to the memory of your daughter, Kim. A litany of blooms. I shall continue to plant until my garden contains every named and unnamed shade of green, from deep spruce harboring evening deer to silver gray wolf willow spray. Translucent lilac just before bloom, the prickle of nettle the tremble of columnar aspen, clover conquering grass. I will learn all the common and all the Latin names rooted deep in Greek. Golden splash euonymus, pleasant sounding. Lobelia, gypsophilia, linum, creeping lamium, lilium, allium, alyssum, helichrysum, a litany of blooms. Flowers for insects and flowers for birds. Armeria, peonia, delphinia, verbena, campanula. Petals in a panoply of color. Bacchia blue, splash red hypoestes, coleus, and creeping purple thymus. Artemisia, fuchsia. From sun worshippers to shadow lovers. Maidenhair and ostrich fern. Convallaria majalis, lily of the valley, muguet, in any language that first whiff of dappled spring. From ground creepers to celestial seekers, lavande papillon, butterfly, lavender ready to take flight. Blooms whose words can cast a spell, lavatera, celosia, primula auricula, scabiosa, argentea variegate, cosmos sonata, dicentra spectabilis, known to the French as Cœur de Marie, Mary's heart bleeding for a dying child. The sacramental, meadow-sweet bridal veil, then to far-off lands, Maltese cross, Spirea japonica, iris, siberica, lemon cypress, Nanking cherry. Anemone, sprung from Aphrodite's tears and the blood of her mortal lover, Adonis, whom she did implore not to go hunt boar, to no avail. The epic and the commonplace, Johnny jump-ups, petite pensée, daylilies, and hardy roses named for explorers. Frobisher, Baffin, Franklin, the rugosas, may I nevermore plant a rose lacking scent or thorn, for a rose, indeed, by any other name, a rose.
That was fabulous. It was gorgeous.
Thank
And I
you.
hope, Christy, I hope you looked in the chat section, and definitely Josephine, need to look in the chat section because there's a lot of different comments. That was gorgeous. It was very
Thanks for telling
spellcasting,
me.
and you'll see the comments in there.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you. Marjorie, I am headed your way. There we go.
Okay, well, in keeping with the tree and flower theme, I guess, this is a poem that just came out in a date book. And it's called, it's a villanelle, and it's called Magnolia and Cherry, and really a pandemic poem. The buds of our magnolia that year were frostbitten and turned black. And we were also fearful that our cherry tree in our front yard was dying because there was sap kind of seeping, but it came back to life. So Magnolia and Cherry, spring 2021. Buds burnt by cold, they open anyway, both pink and blackened, facing the spring. Courage, not innocence, Magnolia and Cherry. In this way, during this year, we try to pray. Fragile and frostbitten, we bring fists burnt by the cold, open them anyway, to the slightest sprout, faith delayed but not detached, half blooms drooping innocence, courageous Magnolia and Cherry. Yours is the incense we crave, the midway in our dark woods that lead to sun, beyond all that is burnt by cold. The only way to wide sky, explosive in its bright display of stars, is up. The heavens' lights, night's reflection of your innocence and courage, Magnolia and Cherry. Survivors of this year's cracked bark, the deep decay of trunks, you bloom above the dank hole rot brings, fisted buds burnt by cold. Still, you open all the way to courage, not innocence. Oh, Magnolia and Cherry.
That's awesome. Thank you, Marjorie. Yeah, I love what Josephine wrote. What a poem of resilience and courage. The pairing of magnolia and cherry. Yeah, boy, open mic never fails to light it up. Gary, I'm coming to you.
Thank you. And hello, everybody from Central California. This is a poem set when I was a child, and it features a fellow named Leonard Sly, who changed and morphed into a superstar, and that's part of what the poem is about. Christmas morning in my Roy Rogers bathrobe. In one hand, I suspend an Argyle sock, half filled with an orange and some Brazil nuts, a box of Roy Rogers classy brand spurs in the other. The bulk of my other presents, draped over a dining room chair, have the same theme. King of the Cowboys, double cap pistol and holster set, waxed black boots, matching vest and chaps with a branding iron hieroglyphics motif. Here is joy itself and an overwhelm of what will be once the debris has been double checked for anything left over, when I can go outside and be Roy and an outlaw simultaneously. Aroma of oak blaze from the fireplace my father made, blent with unveiled alfalfa in troughs and phosphorus from scarlet roll caps ignited in the gray stone Yule air. I am king cowboy of this meager ranch where my family wrangles peaches and dairy cows. My hands never tire of squeezing the triggers of both dark pistols, listening for the cheap metal clicks and clacks just after. Shameless, guileless, unaware of what this will mean later, when bittersweet blood sprouts in my mouth from gnawing my cheek in fear, when sour howls ascend from other throats as they grieve for me when one, then both parents are gone. And what remains in this black and white reminder of one over-gifted Christmas morning is a fantasy built from parents' naive benevolence and the child's gullible faith in happy trails sung by a blithe screen cowboy named Leonard Sly. Click. Thank you.
Thank you. Look at the comments, Gary. I want to make sure you get to see those. Yep. Karen said, you had me when you had said the Roy Rogers bathrobe. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, this is awesome. Karen, I'm coming to you. Hang on.
Sorry, I was basking in Gary's poem. Wow. Whew. Okay, this is very fresh ink. This one hatched this morning kind of on its own. I hope I can read it. When, in the time it took for the water to boil, the poem came. If the soil of the salt of the earth were rising up from the umber red golden of leaves, from the tippings of trees, with the wavings of breeze, from the eases of breaths, from the swellings of lungs, from the pumpings of hearts, from the stoppings and starts of the holding on-tos, of the dreamings, of graspings of pen, and then flowings of ink sinking into the all of it all, then I would be flowing from the coming of true, coming to the dreaming of the great, of the grandparents, of the parents, of the mother, of the father, of the seeming of me, seeming to actually be.
Oh, Karen, I love it. I love the language too. Just fabulous sounds from the tipping of trees. The poem came. And give me just a second to find you. There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to read a plant poem in line with the theme of Kim's book and some of the other poems. This is called Riverscape. 1. The pussy paws, magenta and white pom-poms dot the creekside meadow, Tiny torches rise on red stems to soak in sun rays. Evening retracts them to the embrace of a ground level leaf circle. I envy their simplicity as if they had read Ecclesiastes and decided to live it. 2, the sun and the trees together paint the green river yellow. 3, the spotted sandpiper sails above the rushing river, rests on a dirt ledge before preening. Finally, she pecks the shallows and the shoreline, investigating inch by inch for insects. She is a dreamer and an engineer. 4, the current numbs my legs while I sit on a rock watching. My sped up mind tries to absorb its surroundings. It takes what cues it can. Thanks.
Ooh, awesome. Check in the comments. I love that, everybody's, I love seeing the responses, a dreamer and an engineer. And that resonated with several people at the same time. And Regina, I am coming to you. There you go.
Hi, everyone. I have like I had 2 fingers up, really one flower poem. And so I was gonna read something else and I was like, no, I'm gonna join the party. Okay. So this poem is a poem that focuses on this circle of life we are in. I rarely think of flowers. Every second, flowers grow up and around while reeds and weeds cross and entwine decaying matter. A brilliant response to life ceasing. Inhuman life reclaims human life, crawls towards it, in it, through it, circles it, plucks and shares its value with kinsman creatures, eats it, expels it in a cycle that we choose not to understand, leaves the bones for earth and gravy. Born again from earth, we are seasoned with lifetimes of despair, loss, victory, gain, yet we remain steadfast in the belief that we are of our own time, our own making. We forget from whom we have descended. They were absorbed, perhaps where they last lay or stood, and were repurposed in times long gone, beyond our eyes. Still, we seek to shroud and preserve our physicality, that which was never meant to last beyond the garden. We spend so much of human life terrorizing the earth, that which ultimately and joyfully takes us in. We hide ourselves in caskets and walls to no avail. I want my seasoned matter to be used for flowers, that I might make people smile far more quickly than I was able to in life. Interesting. I rarely think of flowers past their obvious beauty. They cheer us, soothe us, cover us in their glory. Flowers draw from the essence of the spent material of life and valiantly, faithfully turn mourning into dancing. God's faithful instruments indeed. I want to be a flower, an African orchid, an African violet, a flame lily, a blood lily, a ground morning glory. You know, in the way that humans can, until I meet my divine assembly in the center of the sky. Thank you.
Ooh, I love it.
In the center of the sky. Wow.
Yes. Oh, I'm loving this open mic. Don, I'm coming to you next.
Thanks. Thanks, Kim. Always good to hear you read from this book. Sunday drive in Georgia. The farmer with his 1,000 acres, pecan orchards and sod, gantry sprinklers 1/4 mile long, each anchored to its own wellhead, cotton bales big as cars, second job in a double wide on cinder blocks, 18-wheeler tractor and a combine, $4 million mortgage. What does he think on the long haul? Radar guns in every town, churches and banks, Winn-Dixie and Dollar General, fresh painted, no passing on the 2-lane, mailboxes and trash cans on the shoulders. Bridge freezes before the road. Store guns safely, save lives. One fake pill can kill. The lion's den, passion and romance. Life is short, get a divorce. Jesus saves, attorneys at law. Adult Central Superstore.
Thank you, Don.
Mm.
Oh, that was awesome. Yep. Fridge freezes before the road. We have only one final person for open mic, and Laura, I am coming to you.
Thank you. I was not going to read, but I have a short one. This is called Sing Me Home. Bird song on mountaintop, calling, calling, draws me up the cloud-shrouded cove to the ridgeline with its crown of spruce. Nearby, in a stand of white oak, with twisted limbs crippled by weather, stunted by altitude, sits the homestead with its petticoats of mountain laurel. Faintly, so faintly, I hear the tune. Sweet sharp fiddle, sing me home. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. Petticoats of Mountain Laurel. Yeah, that was the same one that I was like, that's fabulous. Okay. Wow. Yet again, thank you for making this Thursday awesome. Kim, it was such a joy to hear you read
Wow,
from.
you guys were amazing.
We should take a moment to clap for open mic too.
Yes, please.
Yay, open mic.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Thank y'all so very much. Kim, you were going to put, could they go through the website, your website, to get a hold of you?
I'll just again say, just send me an email. It's simple to do. I'm just at kimportsparsons@gmail.com, and we'll talk. And I'll get you a signed copy at a reduced rate, direct from me.
Awesome.
And happy to do it. Thank you again so much.
Have a wonderful night.
Malika.
Thank y'all very much.
Thanks, Micah. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
So good.
Yes.